I'm John Biernbaum, and I'm here at the Michigan State University Student Organic Farm, where for the last 10 years we've been working to help local farmers provide local fresh food on a year-round basis. One of the tools that we use to make that possible is the hoop house or high tunnel. It's an unheated greenhouse that can come in a variety of sizes, and it allows us to grow warm season vegetables for an extended period and also to protect crops for a winter harvest. It also helps to provide a high quality crop that has usually less insect and disease damage. In the video that you're going to see today, we partnered with the Michigan Wisewomen program to build a simple 12 by 40 high tunnel using mostly materials that are available from a local hardware store or fence supply store, and then some specialized tools including a bender that's available relatively low cost, so that more and more people can build simple structures and get started learning how to extend the season and have year-round local food. We're going to take a look now at getting started on building. So we've got some of the materials out, and we talked just briefly about the tools. I realize that not all of you will have these tools, but these have become more and more accessible now. So a drill with a battery drive, these are really helpful for going and doing the building. And this we're just going to use in both the drill holes and with a little nut driver. So we'll work on that a little bit later. For the first thing though, we're going to show is this is called a saw or a reciprocating saw. See how it goes back and forth? Okay, and depending on how much I pull the trigger, I can make it go really slow, or I can make it go really fast. All right, and this is what's going to use to cut the steel. These come as 6-foot pieces. We're going to cut them in half to 3 feet, and then we're going to put 2 feet in the ground. And if you don't have it well attached to the ground, it's going to lift it right up off the ground. So the ground posts are really important for that reason. So let's just go ahead and cut a few of these. We're going to try to keep these in the same direction, so when you grab them, take them so the 2 cut ends are down. Those are going to be rough. We'll take a file and file that rough part off, but this is just like a knife, very sharp knife.
To file the pipes with a metal file, pressing down makes small forward motions. This will take off the sharp burrs produced from cutting the pipe. The next thing we need to do is to stake out the dimensions of our house. In this case, we are making a rectangle 12 feet wide and 40 feet long.
We're just positioning the post. The ground post is important for the final quality, so we need to have everything evenly spaced and square.
Stake your first corner and measure across 12 feet to your second stake. This will be one end. For both of those stakes, measure out 40 feet.
Okay, so now what we need to do is check our diagonals.
This graphic shows how your layout can be 12 feet by 40 feet and still be not square. The trick to square it up is easy. Measuring the diagonals, make adjustments until both are equal while still keeping the 40-foot length and 12-foot width that is needed.
Okay, what reading do you get? My past experience, and particularly with this type of structure, is I would tend to just accept that as close enough.
Here are a few tips on getting the ground post into the ground so that they are equally spaced 4 feet apart and vertical.
If we were to take this, all right, and just start pounding on it with the sledgehammer, what would happen is it would distort. And then when we go to put the other piece inside, it won't fit. So the way that they've figured out to do that, to protect that, is one of these. Okay, so this goes in, and then it provides a very smooth surface to do this. I just didn't, it's just called a post leveler, and that tells me it's straight up and down. If I pull it over to where the bubbles are between the lines, it's straight up and down. And then I have to look at this side to make sure it's not leaning that way. All right, so Brendan, you want to come and talk a little bit about hitting square with the sledgehammer? This is
posts that are up here, and what I tell people is if you can swing your back arm up, you want this to be perfectly flat, and we're not, like John said, we're not trying to pound it as heavy as we can. It's heavy enough just by it is, let the gravity do the work for you. So if I'm up here, I can just, by swinging my arm up here, I'm automatically just kind of, this is my fulcrum, and I'm just hammering it down like that. And then John can move it back and forth between my pounding even, if I space it out, so if I give him enough time, let the bubbles clear, make adjustments. And you can see I'm, bending down with my body so that the sledge is flat.
all right, so just put it there and come down and make a mark at 11 inches. We're also going to end up drilling a hole, and that's where we're going to put a bolt in. Someone could actually start doing that on these. While they're working on that, we want to get all 4 corners set, and then we're going to use that to put some string up so that we know how to keep all these pipes in a nice straight line. Okay? These wooden stakes that I just took out can get pounded in somewhere out here beyond the steel ones, and then we'll tie the string. There's one string there, there's another string there, and we'll run the strings down there to the other posts. Tie the string down near the ground, just about 2 inches or so off the ground. We need these pipes to be a certain distance, 4 feet apart, but we also need them to be in a fairly straight line. So now you're starting to talk about 3 things to keep track of: 2 directions on the post pounder, and that direction so it's within a half an inch or so of that string. So who wants to do some pounding with Brendan? Can be coaching. Take turns.
Okay.
And you're just checking in with the person doing the posts. Trying to stay square. We're trying to stay 4 feet apart, and trying to make this all happen.
The lacing bolts are where you attach the parachute cord or lightweight rope that holds your plastic to the structure. You will need twice as many of these as bows. You can make your lacing bolts out of 1/4 inch by 6 inch carriage bolts, nuts, and lock washers. Because the bolts are fully threaded, you can add 1/4 inch of tubing to prevent the line from chafing on the threads. In our case, we improvised with tape since the tubing we purchased turned out to be a smaller diameter and did not fit.
Okay, so do people see how that's going to work? Yeah. Okay, so we got to get the posts in, start drilling, and then we can just start coming in and putting these in. While they're working on this, we're going to go work on bending pipe. This is also referred to as the male end and the female end. Okay, so that they can go to connect together to make longer pieces. So what I'm going to do with starting each of these, I'm going to write top on the 2 opposite ends, and when we make the bow, we're going to connect them together. But so on the first one, where it's the male end, we don't want to bend that part. We want to go through, so that part is through. Okay, and then we may need help here holding on to this thing, because normally I have this hooked to the picnic table, so if we have 2 people kind of pushing against me there, we're going to pull that around, and we're going to learn this is going to be harder to do. All right, and then we're going to push it through a little bit. Same way, I'm trying to make sure that that's staying flat, and I'm going to, yes, this is about the biggest pipe that you can comfortably bend by hand without a machine. Above this size, I have to go to a different kind of machine. You notice that there I started out smooth, Okay, and then I went, that's what you want to try to avoid doing, but okay. Now we're gonna, same way, want to see how that tip is starting to drop. And we want to keep that up. And then I'm going to use this to help me. Extension handle. And we'll pull. Okay, and I gave it a little bit of a yank there that I probably shouldn't have. All right, so bring it back towards me just a little bit. Okay. There. Okay. Okay, so next step is over here.
To assemble the bows, find a flat surface on which to lay the two curved pipe sections. In this case, we used the ground, but you could use a hay wagon or a spare greenhouse table. Connect the two pieces of pipe together. About 1 inch from the end of the female end, drill through both pipes with a 1/4 inch metal drill bit.
And then we have these bolts. That goes through like that. And we're going to work, we'll get a wrench set up so that we can tighten that down. Okay, so we just marked a 12-inch mark, and that's going to determine how far we go into the post. We're going to show you how this works, and we're going to make sure that I bent everything right. We can carry it upside down like this. It looks like maybe the best path is right through there. Okay, so watch out. This is what we're going to have to do to keep going. So we're going to flip this up. Okay, so look now. See, these are 12 feet apart, but see these? They're like a foot wider, right? And there's actually an advantage to that, is that when we drop these in these posts, if there's a little bit of spring on this, it makes the structure stronger. So this is going to take a little bit of skill to push this in simultaneously and slide it down. Okay, and then we need a bow team. So 2 people, one on either end, picking up the bow, bringing them over here, and we're going to start dropping them in.
Okay, let's
So once we have some bolts ready, we can start here. Okay, all right, so it goes from this side, correct? Over to there. Hopefully it goes through. And then a lock washer. And then a nut. We're heading down the home stretch. Everybody's pitching in, doing what needs to be done, which is the key.
So we have these top purlin brackets, and we're just setting them up, and we want to make sure that the bolts are all pointing this way. Put down there. Do whichever one you want. Bolts are facing this way.
That way, gotcha. And you want to be on across the seam?
Yeah. You don't have to cross the bolt, just set it down like that. Good.
Okay.
As you can see, they're uniform. We're not tightening them down right away because we're still got to slide the center purlin through there.
We're working on putting on the purlin clamps. This is going to hold the bows together. So we're trying to put it in on the peak. The pipe will give some, so you just have to do what Brendan just did and hold it up like that. So before you tighten it very much, you want to get both sides on. We put the purlin right down the middle. That's all that's necessary. Let's say you wanted to put a row of tomatoes under there and you wanted to be able to trellis them. You could put another purlin on either side of that, and then it'd just be like a pipe right above your tomatoes, and you could just take a string right up to there. And tomatoes would be one of the key things that this would be used for, is for early tomatoes.
Once the frame is up and solid, it's time to attach the plastic. Since the farmer at our site was not ready for plastic on the structure, we used a large tarp to show how this is done.
Okay, so we can open this up and put it over the tunnel like it was a piece of plastic, and then we can use a little bit of string to hold it on. So one of the things would be is like, how do you get the plastic on? And normally what we would do is lay it down one side like this, and then we would throw a rope over on a big one, and then we would tie it to this. Brendan, if you would help there. and then we would just pull this one edge up and over. Okay, so if we could have some folks hold on to this. All right, so it's just going to go down right about to the bottom there and to the bottom there. All right, just pull it down a little bit, and someone at that end kind of pull it that way. All right, so now we're ready for the twine that just got rolled up. All right, so what we would do, we're going to take this, we're just going to tie it off here on this. So I'm going to throw this over. So who's...
It's over here, John.
Okay. So let's try it right to this bolt. All right, so we would just loop it here. Pull that down. Okay, maybe not that tight. And then we're going to throw this back over, coming over that side.
This is like Craig Shafts.
Okay, but when you come to the end, does it go back?
But I think that's as far as we're going to go if you just hold on to that. If once the lacing is done correctly, right, this would hold the plastic down. On very hot days when you want to vent, you would come here and just slide this plastic up.
Oh.
Okay, and that would let the heat out. All right, and then when it's cold, you would pull it down, or if it's going to rain, you would pull it down. So clearly getting this lacing right is important, but that's the principle, is the lacing would hold it down. In a regular hoop house or greenhouse, you'd build a wall here. All right, now what they're recommending to keep it cheap, all right, so you don't have to build a wall, is you would keep this long and you would pull this out here, you would group it up, and you would tie a knot in the end of the plastic, okay? And then you would take two of these, is what's in the direction, okay, and you would pound one in, okay, at an angle like that. This would be really strong, and then you'd set that knot against there, so that and then you would put this in so it's squeezed, kind of a sandwich in there, and pound the other one in, and this would hold the plastic out. You know, once you look at the pictures in here, hopefully this will help make it sense, but it's all this lacing and, you know, putting these in to hold it, and you're not building an end. Could you at some point switch over and spend a little more time and build an end and put a door? Yes. Okay. We put this at 4-foot spacing, so it's a little bit stronger. Could you put a baseboard on there and just make it into a greenhouse? Yes. Okay. And there's actually, you know, other tricks. This is kind of flat on top. Right? What if I wanted it to hold up against snow? This is not designed to hold up against snow in Michigan. It's only to be covered part of the year, and it's designed to be easy to pick up and put somewhere else. If you wanted to make something more permanent, what I did at the farm, how many of these do we have left? Just this one. Is that I took some smaller pipe and bent it into a 60-degree angle. And this just happens to fit perfectly inside of that. So I have this curved like that, and I go from a rounded, what we'd call a Quonset shape, to a Gothic shape. Think of this as curved, all right? So that's one way of doing it. Or B, you can have these, and you make another 60-degree angle down there and go into a post, and another 60-degree angle over there, and you have an A-framed peaked greenhouse. I thank everyone very much for what was really a wonderful day. It was very exciting being with you guys, and I can see you guys are going to do great things, so it's fun to be a part of it.
Thanks, John. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've learned so much, and I considered myself a bit of a gardener. So I really have learned a lot through the program. That's what Wise Women is to me, is taking what I knew and teaching me more and better ways to do it.
I have been in the third year Wise Woman program, this year, and I really expanded my garden, and being able to do it earlier so I can get produce out quicker, this has really brought some light onto that. Actually, we are eating a lot healthier because I'm getting stuff right out of our gardens, and we're exercising by doing the work in the garden. The other thing is, somebody has donated a vegetable stand to the Wise Women, and it's in my yard, and we're going to sell vegetables and crafts off of that vegetable stand, and hopefully, maybe make some income in the meantime.
My name is Janine Frank, and I've been with Wise Women. This is my second year now, and I am thoroughly enjoying. And today I'm at the Hoop House building, and I'm enjoying it thoroughly because I want to be able to have fresh vegetables all winter long.